there's maybe 5 guys that you could hear like 5 seconds of a song that you never heard before and know who it is. And Ritchie's one of them.
It started with Roger and Ian were producing. They had been asked to produce a group called Elf, so it started with that. The LP being over there. I never heard the LP, but Roger and Ian were both saying, you know, how good the band were and that. And they used to support us a lot in the American tours. And we got to be friendly, and I noticed in particularly the singer knocked me out in particular because of his style, you know, the weird way of singing. So the rest of the band was very good too. And we got to be friends. So I wanted to do this single, which was called Black Sheep of the Family. And I thought, I asked Purple if they wanted to do it on the next LP, and they said that we didn't want to do anybody else's songs and all this business, you know, write our own material. And but I was really, I really wanted to do this song, so I wanted to do it for the last 2 years. And I said to Ronnie, I got him round one night, I got him drunk, and I said, do you fancy doing it? So he said, yeah, I'll sing it. And he got the song off in about half an hour. And we went into the studio and we put it down. It sounded great, except for some of the musicians involved.
The session was good, it went well, aside from the little follow-up that I think Ritchie mentioned before, one of the musicians. That wasn't his fault. But anyway, it was interesting, and we were very pleased with the product, and very tired that night, and probably thought it was better than it was. And we did it again eventually. The track again, and it, I think, turned out quite a bit better, and we were much more pleased with it. At the point we were at when this all came about, when it was just in the talking stages actually, we were still pleased with the progress of the band, but not all that pleased. I think we wanted it to happen sooner than it might have. So the opportunity was there, and the incentive was there to do something with Rich and me, and so it was definitely a big step up to do this kind of thing, you know. I mean, certainly anybody would be a fool to say it wasn't a big step. It was a great step up.
We put a B-side down, which we wrote in a hotel when we were on tour with Elf. And the song turned out so well, we didn't know which to put on the A-side. It turned out better than Black Sheep of the Family. So I thought, well, we're going to look, and we were all thinking the same thing at the same time. But right, when we're going to make an LP then? So we said, okay. Decided to make, I had about 6 weeks off from Deep Purple before we started touring. So I said, let's go together now. So we rushed about and rehearsed in 2 weeks, and we put the LP down in a month. And the whole thing came together, and it's come out. I'm being modest and saying it's kind of brilliant. It's come out very well.
In the beginning, I think, like any session, especially with a new group of people, it was a little bit tense, not much, but just a little bit tight. And when we started working in the studio and found out what everyone's capabilities were, and that everyone was willing to pitch in and like say, why don't we try this? And everyone else didn't say, oh, what a bum idea. They said, well, let's give it a whack. If it worked, fine. If it didn't, there was no repercussions because it didn't work. It eventually became very relaxed, not only because of the work in the studio, but because we carried on as friends, as a band.
We finished the LP and I was really pleased with that. getting back to the LP. And then we had a tour with Deep Purple, and after about the third gig I realised that I'd been spoilt. During making this LP, I'd enjoyed it so much that going back with Purple was becoming a hardship, I really thought. Because everybody was egotistical, including myself. And it was really getting very hard to put together an LP. Nobody really had that many ideas, and it was what ideas were going around I didn't personally like. So most of the band were going towards funk and shoeshine music, if you like, you know. Anyway, about halfway through the tour, I decided to tell the band, I said, look, I don't want to go in the studio. And you know, they took it well. And they just had a holiday and got another guitarist, to cut a long story short.
I'm not exactly a novice in this business, and I'm not really swayed by who asks me, what name asks me. It has to be something that, if I'm going to go into it, I go into it with all of my energy, all of my feelings, all of my thought. And just because it was Ritchie, you know, I could give a fuck, you know, if it was Ritchie Blackmore. But there were extenuating circumstances, being that I respected Ritchie, think he's a brilliant guitar player, a good friend, a hell of a great guy to me, you know, he's weird and all that, you know, that's his image, isn't it? But anyway, as far as he and I are concerned, everything was fine, and to go into that kind of position with someone I respected and liked was just kind of icing on the cake.
Right.
So for me, there was no hemming and hawing to say, but I thought about it. It was a proposition offered to me. I felt that I had places I could go without needing Ritchie Blackmore, just like Ritchie could go anywhere he wants without needing Ronnie Dio. But it was a very nice mutual thing, and it worked. And so I eventually said, yes, I'd like to do it.
When I played the songs to him, the way he interpreted them was he sings exactly the way I would like to sing if I could sing. And feelings mutual, he likes the guitar playing. And he's got a really incredible way of putting a song across. I think his lyrics are brilliant. I think his timing is fantastic. And his intonation, and everything. And it's so hard to find a very good singer that can do that. Whereas some of the songs in the LP, most of them, have turned out exactly how I wanted them to. And he has an uncanny knack of knowing exactly what I want for some reason, I don't know how. So in the moment, I'm really pleased with what's going down. But it's not my band, it's a band that I got together with Ronnie, and I put my name to the first LP as being Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow to get people to know that I've left Deep Purple more as a kind of, if you like, that type of music. This is where I'm at the moment, but I hope to drop that later.
If he wants it to be Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow on the single, and only on the first single and the first album, that'll be up to him. If he wants it Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow on the second and the third, then that also will have to be up to him. He should make the decision. He's made it possible for us to do what we're doing. We didn't ask him, he asked us, and he's the man who's going to do most of it. So if that's what he wants, that's what he'll do.
I don't consider myself that good to front a band, and I don't want to front a band. It's a case of I'll always do my flash business on stage, which I like doing, but I don't want to be I just don't like, for some reason, to be known as leader of a band. I like to be a pusher, obviously, of the band, but I don't like, because nobody can be a leader of a band if they're really truthful.
I think no matter how many credits you put on the back of an album, that album is going to be bought by Ritchie Blackmore fans, not by Ronnie Dio fans or Gary Driscoll fans or past Elf fans. But there will be some Elf fans who will buy it, certainly. But it's inevitable that they're going to think this is Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, not anybody else's. But that's not the point. I'm not trying to say, no, that it's not Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, because it is. It is. But it was a joint effort. It was done by, I would have to say, more of it was done by Ritchie and myself. We wrote the songs, you know. I think they'll say, yes, it was Ritchie's group. But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm proving myself still, even though I feel I don't have to. I think I'm good enough not to have to prove myself to anybody. But I will have to do it. I have to compete with Ritchie. I do.
I'm just playing the music I want to play, the music I believe in. Whereas with Purple, towards the end, I wasn't believing in the music. And as soon as you start disbelieving, the audience is going to stop coming to see it. Yeah. And I wasn't going to just see it through because another day, another dollar business, you know. I wasn't on that. This decision could lead me to be in a way out of pocket. I mean, I was making a lot of money with Purple, but money ceases to be of value once you reach a certain stage of music. You've just got to take that chance to say, well, it's a chance, and I've lived without money before, I'll live without again. You know, and play the music I want and take a chance, or sit back and wine and dine and have a good time. But I'm not having a good time unless I'm playing the music I want to play. I don't get off on all the side effects that go with being successful, particularly. Obviously, I don't think one wants to be without money, but when it came to it was either music or money. So I took the music.
I think we drew about 1,500 people.
You're kidding.
It was pretty sad, and Ritchie got pretty loaded for that one. I don't blame him. But
wow.
No, we became huge afterward. Mm. You know, after we broke up, then those first albums became huge, and then you know, as Rainbow went along, it became a different band. It became a pop band. Mm-hmm. But to this day, the second album especially is always listed on everybody's lips as one of their favorites, Rainbow Rising. My favorite was the first one always.
Yeah.
But hey, we'll take it where you can get it.
I love the live album. Is it Long Live Rock and Roll?
Yeah.
On stage. Yeah, that's the
On stage?
On stage,
yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
It wasn't bad.
I think the second album has got two good tracks, but I think, unfortunately, Ritchie's a parody of his former self. Like, I know what he can do.
The new album, I just...
Nobody used to
I can't believe it.
Nobody's had that. Like, we know sort of most of the boys who were on the album, and the general feeling is not particularly positive. It was, to me, it sounds a deliberate attempt at doing a Foreigner, which is sad because Foreigner were taking it from Purple, you know.
I mean, that, as like we said, that Rainbow Rising team should have stayed together. That was good. Had beef and balls, and
it was all there. I mean, what was that really Light in the Dark or something?
Great stuff. Light in the Black.
I mean, Light in the Black, all that fucking shit. You know, I hate all those lyrics, Tower in the Power and all the fucking drop me off at an evil witch. I hate all that, you know, but that was the band. They had it, you know, but it ain't there no more.
He should have no reason to dislike me any more than I should have any reason to dislike him, because Ritchie and I were always of the same mind. Again, here's a guy who was playing who believed in the same kind of music I did at that time. You know, it's just that we never really carried on. We never progressed. As far as I was concerned, the band was regressing and not progressing. We had a lot of tools there, but you know, the band became live, especially, you know, rather dissatisfying, and it was always a solo for Ritchie in the beginning, a solo in the middle, a solo in the end, every song. But after a while, I mean, you know, even the laziest of people probably are going to want to do some work. And I'm not lazy, and I want to sing all the time, not all the time. But, you know, I mean, I saw no sense in it. And, you know, I think that attitude probably was picked up by Ritchie, and so I'm like, you should be very happy with what I'm doing. I wonder why, the little prick or the little Hitler, whatever. I mean, I'm putting words in his mouth.
No, I understand.
It's probably not true. But I think it was, you know, other people breathing into his ear that the material that we were writing was too fantastical, and that it needed to be love song based.
So he was more into the demonic kind of side, the nasty little kind of gremlins. He was into hobgoblins and kind of demons. I was into more little pixies in the wood, and kind of like but I didn't know it at the time. I was just like, hey, this is great. Yeah, he did a great job. Came along, he did very well. Until that. And we started slowing down. On the third LP, we were in France, and I remember being in the studio, and Ronnie came in with Cozy, and I was kneeling down in front of my amplifier trying to get the sound, and he poked me in the back. I always remember it. We're not standing for this. Yeah. What? You're on the front cover of Circus magazine. We're not going to be sidekicks. And I saw this guy in a whole different light then. I went, it's got nothing to do with me from the front page. I don't know, I'm on the front page of whatever you're talking about. No, you're on the front page of Circus, and it was going to be the three of us. And I went, so it's not? No, it's just you. That was it. Yeah. I knew we'd finished then, because I couldn't talk to him anymore. I suddenly saw him in a different light. I saw him as this angry little bitter man. It was just like, yeah. He wasn't, hey, Ronnie, he would just have a drink and laugh. He got very bitter then. When we made, like, you know, our fourth or fifth change of personnel while I was still there, which became Roger Glover. Roger came into the band then. Bob Daisley was gone, and David Stone was gone. Cozy was still there. And Roger came to me one day and said, you think maybe you should, like, try to write some songs more about, like, relationships? And I said, no, I don't think so, Roger. And I think maybe you should go and tell your man that. So that was the end of it right there.
That was it?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to write love songs. It's not what I do. It's not what I ever wanted to do. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. So they became, to me, the band that I never wanted to be in. And that was a band that started to not only do the love songy kind of things or relationship songs, but actually we're doing songs that were written by other people. Mm-hmm. You know, my pride was always that, hey, we're writers. We create. You know, even if we make a bad album, at least we did it all by ourselves. So, you know, it was the best thing to happen for me, because it led me to the next step, which was the perfect position that was happening.
I wasn't ready for the Rainbow. I didn't know who they were, for one thing. I mean, it took me all my time to know who Led Zeppelin were back then, because I never listened to that kind of music. You know, I was always into more vocal stuff, like the Beatles and the Beach Boys and whatever, you know, more harmony, vocal, blah, blah, blah. And at that time, I was doing like solo stuff, which was released in other countries, but here, which did very well in Australia and weird places like Iceland and the South Pole. Marvelous career I've had, very, very weird.
This is where Graham Bonnet makes his entrance. We've been told, I said, that guy in the marbles was the best, he was fantastic.
We get hold of him, track him down. Roger talks to the producer. So you know Graham Bonnet? What's he like in the studio? Brilliant. As a guy? Fantastic. So what's the catch? Can he sing above top C? Oh yeah, he can sing an F sharp above top C. So Roger's going, so well, what's the catch here? Because he could sense there was something missing. Yeah. Producer at the other end in London's going, oh, he's great, great singer. But there was a but you didn't hear it. Yeah. Oh great, okay. So we had him out.
I had to go out and buy like 3 Rainbow albums and listen to what it was all about, and I said, oh, I can't do it. It's not real singing, is it? I thought, it's not real singing, it's just pretend singing, It's not, it doesn't have all that soul, which I was kind of, I like R&B where you bend notes and one thing or another, whatever. And this was more kind of straightforward and being, more whatever it is, blood and guts. And I thought it wasn't for me, but he convinced me to go and do an audition for Rainbow, and they gave me a song called Mistreated, which I listened to, and that was my audition piece. And I remember going over to France and doing that, and sang it through, and they all said, can you do it on mic this time? Because I did it without the microphone. And they still heard me, because my voice is pretty loud when I sing. And so I did. They were joking, they just were all laughing. I said, do you want the job? I said, well, I've got the wrong hair. No, I didn't say that, but I was thinking that. Oh, Christ, these guys have all got their hair and the flowing robes, and here's me with a tie and a suit on or whatever I was wearing. You know what I mean? Totally wrong, completely damn wrong. And they said, well, okay, you got the job, man. If you want it, okay. And that's how that kind of started. Oh, I was blown away. I just couldn't believe how powerful that band was. What a great bunch of musicians. Roger was a great songwriter, lyricist, etc. And Rich was this great guitar player. Don Airey was playing keyboards at the time, and he was just like amazing and cozy on, my dear friend. I mean, we're instant friends. It was like, yeah, this is good, isn't it? It's kind of cool. It's a huge band. It made you want to sing. And so I soon got into the so-called heavy, or the metal, or whatever you want to call it, pop metal thing we did at the time, because the Since You've Been Gone was kind of a pop tune. But it drove me on to be a different singer, because of how the band was, It was just a whole new world. It was an experience.
And then we started recording with him. And then Graham's going, I can't sing. We're going, well, why not? I have to be in the studio to sing. We're going, but we're in a castle in the middle of France. It's fantastic. The ambience is unbelievable. And you can't sing? He's going, no, I've got to be in the studio. It's supposed to be the other way around. Yeah, it's supposed to be like, I can't really sing in the studio, but I could sing in a castle in France, a real castle. This guy, no, he couldn't sing in a castle in France. No, he had to be in a little dirty little studio somewhere before he could sing. That was the first thing with him.
Yeah, I just couldn't get it together. It just didn't feel right. Well, we couldn't do it as well because we had no sort of vocal room. All the rooms are very kind of echoey and stone floors, and one point I remember going into the dining room, which had this huge kind of Knights of the Round Table, or King Arthur table, a great big long table with a bunch of chairs. Okay, we'll do the vocals in there. And it wasn't right, and so we ended up going to a studio, which, it was okay for everything else, for drums and all that stuff, but for vocals it was completely wrong. So we had to it was just all over the place. It sounded weird. Lots of echo and reverb where it shouldn't be, They had no tunes whatsoever. They just had Since You've Been Gone, the Russ Ballard thing. So they kind of took me into the studio and said, well, what do you want to do on this? And at that time, I'd never written song one, ever. because everything, I know I just got songs from songwriters to do albums before. So I was very confused, and I said, I don't know what to do. Where does the vocal go in this thing? You know, because huge arrangements of all this stuff going on. And I'm used to having a piano guy play something to me, or I play something on my guitar and say, this is the way the song goes, this is where the verse is, da da da. But this was like a whole arrangement, and I'm going, well, where's the vocal come? I don't hear it. And so Roger Glover at that time took over and started writing the words and the music. You know, when we actually did get to the studio after this long kind of rehearsal thing, they let me kind of bend around the melodies and do it my way. I was given a basic idea, and then it was up to me to kind of make it my own, so to speak.
Tonight you're mine completely. Oh yes. You give your love so sweetly. Tonight the light of love is in your eyes. But will you love me tomorrow?
I remember the very first gig, the first 3 rows, I saw all these kids going. And I'm thinking, this is when I first walked on, you know, I'm walking with my hair all, hey, you know, doing my Fonzie. And then when we started, these guys, they kind of, they were going, all right, you know, they were going, hey, you know. And I remember afterwards meeting some of these people that were down front, and they said, we're so sorry for giving you the finger, you know, kind of thing. But, you know, we weren't ready for what you were, you know. We wanted to see Ronnie James Dio, you know, with his hair and everything, and the, you know, the fringes hanging down off his jacket or whatever, you know. And I looked completely wrong. But they said, as soon as you opened your mouth, we knew you were completely right. Great. You know, which was a very nice compliment, you know. Because I was nervous, because I knew something like that would happen. Because I looked so ridiculous compared to the rest of the band. I was totally the odd man out.
Graham, your hair's too short. The band, you know, people like long hair that follow us, that's the thing. I used to have long hair. Okay, but you know, you don't have long hair anymore. It's very short and you look like a cabaret singer. Can you please grow your hair? Well, I used to have long hair. I cut it off. And we went, right. So we said, by the time we did Newcastle, I don't know when it was, that would have been like 1980, somewhere around there, 1979. Newcastle City Hall, I think we did. We had a watch on him. We actually had a guard on his door. Colin Hart was on his door to make sure that he didn't go out to get his hair cut. It was actually getting down to the back of his collar, right? And we go, right, he's just beginning to be acceptable, otherwise we're going to be crucified. We're going to get on stage with our new singer who has short hair. They're going to hate that. Sure enough, you know what he did? He jumped out the window, ran off and had a haircut. So it came to showtime, I went on stage and the guy's hair was up here. I'm looking at the back of his head, you know, like military army thing. You know? And Colin was saying, can you believe it? He got out the back window and had his hair cut. He did. But I was so close to, I was that close to taking my guitar off and just going whack across the back of his head. I was so angry. I'm so glad I didn't.
I didn't think anything would happen with that album at all, because the band wasn't very big in England. You know, not a lot of people knew who they were. Me being one of them when I joined it, for instance, you know, and I thought, well, what, you know, okay, the album's done, what's going to happen now? Before we knew it, this damn Since You've Been Gone was on the radio, and off you go. You know, it was a new life for Rainbow, which was kind of cool, because it made me feel good, because I actually got to keep my short hair. You know, which was nice. I wasn't asked to grow it long or anything, you know. So it was, I was very surprised. The band didn't want to do that to him, for instance, in the beginning, you know. Oh, we're not going to do that. No. We had a version of a band called Clout. Do you remember those guys? A girl band? Yeah. The original Since You've Been Gone. They did it first. Oh. And that's the thing we had. You know, we had a 45 or something, you know. And nobody wanted to do it. So that song was kind of left till the last minute. And I think the rest of the band hoping that it would never be done, you know. We get the other ones, we go, oh, we can't do Since You've Been Gone now, we can't do that. No, it doesn't go with the other tunes, you know. But that was the hit. You know, it turned out to be, you know, a good plan in the end anyway. It was Bruce's idea, the manager, Bruce Bain.
Never used to ask Graham how he was, because it was just natural. Hey Graham, how you doing? Oh, I feel a bit strange today. Do you? Oh, yeah, very strange. Yeah, I feel really weird today. Oh, well, why is that? I don't know. I just sort of feel. I feel weird. Colin would go, have you eaten? And he'd go, that's it.
That was based around an idea that Ritchie played me on an acoustic guitar in the studio. That was really when I started to get involved with the song writing side of it, well, at least the melody side of it. And he had this song, there's a song by Chris Farlowe. He said, you know that Chris Farlowe song that goes like this, da 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 da. Oh yeah, the Mick Jagger tune, yeah. He said, can you think of that? We're going to call it I'm Getting Higher. Oh, okay. You know, I'm Getting Higher, which it didn't turn out to be, obviously, in the end. But he said, base the melody around that Jagger thingy. So it was kind of ad-lib. And when we recorded it, it was kind of ad-lib, and I did each verse slightly different or whatever. And then the chorus became All Night Long instead of We're Getting Higher, you know. But that was really basically my tune, but I was never credited for that. I never got over that, really. I was never credited for anything on that album. But that was my tune. I took that old tune and bent it around to make it something different. But it had the same kind of feel as this old tune of Mick Jagger. I saw you standing down by the stage. Your black stockings and your supergroup. Your mouth is open, I don't want to hear you say goodnight. I felt part of the band, no doubt about it. You know, walking out there every night was just like a dream. You know, I didn't have to worry about anything. If I screwed up, I knew that the rest of the band would carry it. You know, if I wasn't in good shape, you know, vocally or whatever, I knew I needn't worry. It was such a safe atmosphere to go on stage. It was like walking into a comfort zone. The audience weren't there, no matter how many people were out there. They weren't there. They were there. You could see them, yeah. But you know what I mean. That stage became my living room, and it was just like I didn't have to worry. I know these guys are going to be there. If I screw up, no worries. They're going to carry me through it. You know, it was marvelous. A weird feeling. When my friends came along to see that Castle Donington thing, they just couldn't believe it how great the band was. They really were. When they had a good night, it was a fucking good night. I mean, it's like, ooh. They're amazing. All the guys are talented, you know, all of them. There was no, like, this guy's carrying this guy, you know, there was no slacking off in any area, you know. But, you know, they're just perfect. I remember trying out the pyrotechnics the afternoon of the show. Cozy decided to use dynamite instead of just regular, you know, firework thing. So we gel night or something, something ridiculous. And after setting them off in the afternoon, all the speakers went and all the cabinets and everything, blew them out, you know, all the PA system and some of the guitar amps, and so I don't think Gel at Night's a good idea, you know, Cozy. I don't think we should go with that somehow. So we had to go with the regular pop bombs, you know, those kind of drain pipe things they have. But I you know, I'll just never forget that night. My mum and dad were there, and my brother, and the dogs, and everybody else I knew. It was probably the best night I've ever had, you know, because of what it was, the first of those shows, the Donington shows. It was just magic, you know. I'll never forget it. It's been downhill ever since.
Yeah, but I wasn't that good. They wanted me to see the band live. It's kind of silly because they didn't want me to run into Cozy. He was leaving anyway, you know, and I know he knew I was there. And it was like wherever he'd go, they'd say, "Oh, go the other way." I mean, it was like I really felt like a dummy, you know what I mean? I wanted to just go up and say, "Hi, how you doing?" You know. But we became friends later. I got a good Cozy story. When I joined Sabbath, he had called me. You know, he called me at the house where we were rehearsing it. He goes, "Bowie, Cozy here." I go, "Hey, how you doing, Cozy?" He goes, "I'm good. I'm going to give you my girlfriend's number, mate. You've done just about everything else I've done. You might as well do that too." I just went on the floor, you know. He had a good sense of humor.
When we started to go in to do the second album, we were rehearsing in Copenhagen. And rehearsals turned out to be me and Don and Roger Glover. And it wasn't a band, you know, people wouldn't turn up. Ritchie didn't want to go. It was just boring. We were in this little room, probably not much bigger than this, and trying to get something happening, and nothing was happening. Cozy had just left. It was like, oh, it's not the same, is it? The vibe had gone. So we had a tune come in again from Russ Ballard, and we started to record that. And I put some backing vocals down to it. That was the only song we had again. And after that, I said, well, what's going to happen? I mean, nobody seems to be very interested. And I said, I'm going to go back to LA. So I came back, and when I got back home, I thought, well, I don't want to go back there. It's too depressing, you know. Because Don Airy at that time was going, I think I'm going to leave. I'm going back to the ships. I'm going to play on the ships. You're not Don, are you? Well, Cozy's not here, is he? Not me, not me. Oh, yeah, okay. So I decided to leave, and Don actually stayed. And they offered me an idea. How about we get another singer in to do some of the tunes you don't like, and you do the ones you do like, that you like. And I said, no, it's not going to work with two singers. I said, I know, I just want to be me, the singer in the band, not do it with another guy. You know, I said, I can't imagine that. That wouldn't feel right to me somehow. You know, so I left, and I think it was a big mistake. Actually, I wish I'd have stayed for another couple of years. Should have done, really.
I was actually just coming off of a band called Fandango with 4 mildly unsuccessful albums on RCA Records. And I got a call from one of Ritchie's roadies. And he said, well, I'm standing next to Ritchie Blackmore, and he'd like to talk to you. So I said, yeah, right, okay. Who is this really? And he says, no, honestly. So I said, well, put him on then, kind of arrogantly. And hello, mate, he said, and I'm a big fan of yours. And I said, I'm a fan of yours, you know what I mean? I grew up with you. So he said, we're looking for a new singer, and I like your voice and all this, so would you be interested in coming down to audition? So I said, like, when? And I think it was the next day or whatever. There he was, Ritchie, his wife at the time, or girlfriend, the manager, Bruce Bain, Colin Hart, the road manager, and I think Roger Glover was there in the studio. And it was really very quick. It was just like, how do you do? Nice to meet you, everything. Get right in the studio on the mic. So I went into the studio on the mic, and they started playing some tracks, and I had to improvise these tracks because they wanted to see if I could improvise, if I could write lyrics, so on and so forth. So with that in mind, they actually said, well, let's try a real song. And the song was I Surrender.
I surrender.
The lyrics in front of me and a general idea of the melody, and that was it. So Ritchie came in with a couple of beers, and he said, do you want to be in the band? And I said, well, yeah, of course. And he said, well, you got the gig. So that's how I got. And then from there on, they kept me in Long Island. I never went back to New York for a couple of weeks. They just bought me clothes or whatever I needed. And, I stayed there writing lyrics and melodies with Roger, and started to record the album, which was difficult to cure. I didn't have a hand in writing all the songs on Difficult to Cure. Russ Ballard, of course, I think wrote 2 of them, I Surrender being the big hit. And then Roger and I dug in and we wrote, I think, the rest of the album. So immediately I felt kind of part of the family. I was able to go and improvise, write lyrics and melodies, which is really quite an achievement for someone who, all of a sudden just gets in a band. So that was very inspiring, And of course, the album taking off the way it did, we had the #1 hit in England and throughout Europe and what have you, and I was the new kid in town, and of course I got a lot of crap from the critics, who are more sentimental than they are critical. They always want the old guy, the old school, whatever. They never can accept the new guy. So I think, the highlights were just overwhelming in the sense that this album was so successful. It was like a blitz for me because it all just kind of rolled together from the inception, getting in the band, writing, recording, hitting the road. And there I was. One day I woke up in a hotel room and went, I'm actually in this band. It was pretty exciting.
You don't know what's happening, you want to go on, and there's nowhere to hide. You walk on the stage, first time alone, the crowd's going wild. And you feel so alive. You can stand up and take this all night. They love you. You're in love with the spotlight. You're the spotlight man.
I had to learn to front the band as well because I was a guitarist singer in my old band, Fandango. So when I took the guitar off, my hands got really big. It's an old expression, and you really don't know what to do. So you have to learn a whole new mic stand technique and whatnot, and it was pretty awkward for a while. Thankfully, I had Ritchie kind of giving me pointers, and don't do this, and and so on and so forth. So in a way, he grew me up.
Joe's a great guy. I like Joe, but Joe is Joe's. Joe's very feminine. Of course, we took him on stage in Europe.
He got crucified really good.
And I took him backstage and I pulled him by the throat and I went, "You've got to stop that." I said, "They're going to kill us."
Ritchie was not necessarily towards me, but if, in general, you know, if he didn't like it, it had to be fixed. You know, but any of them could have been like that, but Ritchie was like, you know, like if he didn't like a vocal or something or a melody, we just change it, you know.
I never found Ritchie incredibly difficult. I found him to be a perfectionist. And because he was a perfectionist, a lot of people got the sensibility that he was difficult because they're not perfectionists, for example. If he wanted something extremely right and correct and brilliant, you're difficult because it wasn't. If it wasn't, then he's difficult. But when it was spot on, I mean, he was the first guy to come up and say, brilliant vocal, love it, great job, you know. That's not difficult. You know, and that's why I don't think we really had any major rubs in our relationship, because I understood that, you know, because I'm quite a perfectionist myself. I want things to be absolutely pristine and right. I want the performances to really scream with emotion and contact and connection with people. And I think he felt that as well. I think he's very misunderstood, really. Very misunderstood. But I think he likes being misunderstood, mind you, because then there's a great mystery about that, and you don't have to really answer so many questions. You can just kind of tell people to, you know, piss off. When I first got in the band, everybody says, well, you got big shoes to fill, you know, and I arrogantly said, well, I'm going to make my own footprints. I don't fill shoes. And I think I did. I think I created another style. I think, of course, a more commercial style, which Ritchie wanted to do. I mean, this wasn't ill-conceived. This was targeted. You know, we wanted to become a more commercial band at that point.
I think Rainbow was still a heavy band even when we were commercial. You know, we like compared to bands like Foreigner and stuff. You know, we were definitely heavier, but it was just a more, I don't even think it was conscious, it's just the way it worked out. We had a lot of heavy songs, just that we also had like the I Surrenders and stuff like that, which were, you know, more melodic.
I Surrender was a big hit, but it's not one of my favorites. You know, I think it's a great song. I think Russ Ballard's a great writer and all, and it really did well for us. But you know, as far as songs, you know, they're like children. You write these songs and you conceive them and so on and so forth. But I think there were a couple of other deeper tracks on that album, Freedom Fighter and Midtown Tunnel Vision and things like that, you know, that I prefer, more bluesy, heavier numbers as opposed to the pop numbers. Straight Between the Eyes was the attempt at a more commercial sound. Difficult to Cure, Russ Ballard, okay, wrote a big hit, I Surrender. But we were on a path, and we had proven that we could write these songs. And it was proven as well here in the United States and just about everywhere, Japan and whatnot. That album was more commercially successful than Difficult to Cure. So I don't know if you base it on that, but I would say that there's no better or worse album. But what it was the next step in the evolution of being a more commercial but yet heavy band. Some of the journalists I've spoken to through the years have said that Rainbow at that point really sort of created what they call melodic hard rock, that we were the forerunners of melodic hard rock. Because before that, you were either like a very heavy bag or you were like more of a pop bag. But we sort of combined the two with Stone Cold and songs like that that became huge on MTV, because MTV was launching at the same time. So this was just astounding that we took off the way it did. Got in the top 10 here in the States. All over the world, it was well received. You know what I mean? I'm still singing it in Japan and Europe and everywhere, you know. So it was just an attempt at a more commercial album, but yet still retaining our credibility and integrity, which I think we did. Straight Between the Eyes tour was, Live Between the Eyes, whatever you want to call it, was Straight Between the Thighs, we used to call it as well. Absolutely brilliant, because this was our album. This was really all us. You know, of course, we had Surrender and things like that to jump off of. But we really had a moody show. We had the power songs. We had the big ballads, you know. There was a lot of color in it.
It was sort of like Controlled Chaos. I mean, we'd be doing extended solos and stuff, and there'd usually be either a phrase or, you know, a look or a drum fill to get you into the next part, you know, depending on the song. You know, you just have to keep your eye on Ritchie, and when he'd do one of those, you know his next part was coming, you know. It was pretty cool. That's the fun part of it, when, you know, it's like on the edge, and I think that's when really good things can happen.
I'd have to say that was probably the most fantastic tour, only because we felt so close to it as well, musically, you know, performing just about the whole album on stage, you know, with a few bits from the Dio era and the Graham era, and then, of course, the Difficult to Cure. But this album was truly our own. Bent Out of Shape was another continuing attempt at commerciality or melodic hard rock. Now we were purely set in our ways as far as where we were going with the direction. And I think Bent Out of Shape was a very classy album. It was almost too finished in a way. Could have kept it a bit more raw, but it was polished. I mean, Street of Dreams was, again, another huge hit all over the world. But it was a bit more produced, polished, you know, in that way, and the sound was a bit more upscale, so on and so forth. So we were really going more into the direction of where Journey and Foreigner and all these types of bands were. And I really believe one more album with Rainbow after that would have put us into that category. However, there was mitigating circumstances. But Bent Out of Shape still remains one of my favorite albums of all time. I just think it has power and sensitivity, integrity. Performances were great. You know, songwriting was amazing. You know, we really it was a shining moment, I think, for us.
Something's come over me, and I don't know what to feel.
I think there was some fans that really got aggravated at that because they wanted to hear a more unpolished sound. They wanted to hear a more raw sound. And I can understand that, you know. However, if you came and saw the band live, we had it. You know, we did have it. So, you know, I don't know whatever everybody so-called got their knickers in a twist about, because the band still had the power and the passion, you know, that it always had. But, you know, some of the critics were like, oh, well, now they've gone over the edge and, you know, oh my God, and all this stuff, you know. But yet, the hits were there, and the people loved it, and the radio play was amazing. It was Jimi Hendrix who said, there's no disgrace in getting your records played on the radio. Commercialism is not a bad word. And Ritchie believed that, as well as I and the rest of the band at this time. What's wrong with commercialism? You need to sell to great amounts of people. And if you reach great amounts of people, that means you're connecting with something inside of them. Okay? I mean, who wants to make an album for themselves? What's the point? You know? What I was told after the last Japan tour on the plane with everybody on board was that Purple was going to get back together, and that I had a solo career on Elektra Records at the time, so we were all busy, and that at some point in time, Rainbow would reunite, get together, and we'd finish what we started, which I always thought we had another album in us, Ritchie and I. So I lived in that sort of framework. Okay, so everybody asked that, were you disappointed? Well, what I was disappointed about is that we never had the opportunity to really make this fourth album, okay? But not the band sort of dissolving at that point, because I was more than supportive of Purple getting back together. After all, Deep Purple was my favorite band. And they came out with a brilliant album, Perfect Strangers. You know what I mean? Brilliant. They really shined, you know, and I was on my solo career and it was all great, you know, and everything else. So no, I was not disappointed that the band, that it dissolved at that point, because it was supposed to regenerate. That's what I'm disappointed about, that we never had the chance to do that again. Yeah, and I wish we would, because I think we have a magic between us, Ritchie and I.
Well, I got the gig with Rainbow quite out of the blue, actually. I had gone to see Deep Purple in 1990 when Joe Lynn Turner was in the band, and I was very poor at the time, and a friend of mine who worked for the record company knew I was a huge Purple fan, and he gave me a ticket for the show and a backstage a party pass for the after show party. So I made up a little cassette with 4 songs on it, put my telephone number on it, my name and stuff, and gave it to Colin Hart, who was then Purple's tour manager. And I never thought any more about it.
It started with my girlfriend giving me a tape of Dougie, and I played it. It's very good.
I came back from Germany, where I had been recording with another band, and there was a sign on my door saying Ritchie Blackmore's secretary's called, can you phone this number? We're all very excited. So I called but didn't get a reply, but left a message. And on the Saturday we were having a party in the house, and the telephone went. Picked it up and it's, hi, this is Ritchie Blackmore. I'm going, yeah, right. He goes, no, really it is. And I said, okay, if you're Ritchie Blackmore, you need to answer me this question. And he said, go on. And I said, the song Hold On from the Stormbringer album, what's so special about the guitar solo?
I did play the whole entire thing with my thumb.
And I said, right, Ritchie, what can I do for you? And he says, well, listen, I've been listening to your tape. I like your voice. Can you send me a recent picture over so I can get a look at you? So I did that.
And I said, come on over.
Within a week to 10 days, I was flying out to New York to audition for Rainbow. And 10 years ago, on the 20th of April, he asked me to join the band, and I was more than happy to take that up. It was great. Before we started recording the album, we had 6 weeks in upstate New York in a place called Cold Spring on the Hudson. And we went up there and we played soccer, football for us Brits. And we played a lot of football, and we went out to dinner a lot, and we drank lots of wine. And we also wrote music. And I would be lying in my bed and I'd hear, and that'd be, oops, Ritchie's down ready to start, so we'd all run down and we'd all get in there. And of course he wouldn't be there, you know. So then he would come back in and we'd start jamming. And Stand and Fight was one of the very first ideas we ever came up with. And we wrote quite a lot of songs up there actually, but they got lost because Ritchie took all the tapes. Again, I was taping the stuff, and at the end of it, he took all the tapes away. So there was nothing left that we could go back. I could go back and reference, because he didn't want any of this stuff getting out. Quite rightly so. These days, I would be selling it on eBay for 100 quid a pop. So Stand and Fight was one of the ones that had been left. It was lying around, and so when we went in, it was one of the first songs we recorded for the album. It's a simple song with, you know, mouth organ. It was just a way of us easing into the actual recording process.
Days of old are hidden in these walls. Hear the witches play their tunes, sing their songs to the moon. As the waiting lights will move in the hall of the mountain king.
Well, Hall of the Mountain King is a Grieg piece, and Ritchie's been playing it since the 60s. And he decided that he wanted to make a song out of it. And I went and bought the book and read the book, the relevant chapter, to get a flavour for it, started writing lyrics. And he came in and said, Candy has written the lyrics for this. And I was like, oh, okay then. So we sat down, and the producer said, now I want you to sing it in your blues voice, Dougie. And I said, but it's a classical piece. Ah, but you've got to get that sort of bluesy tone. So we tried it, and we tried it. And it wasn't in a blues key. It's not a blues scale. You can't sing it in a blues. In the blues, it's classical. You've got to sing it in a sort of manic fashion. And all of a sudden, I'm covered in water, and when I'm trying to sing this. And I look up to the balcony, and there's Ritchie standing with a couple of water pistols firing at me. And he comes down and he says, what is going on? I've been gone 4 hours and you haven't even got one line down. And I said, well, Pat's trying to get me to sing it in a blues style. He said, sing it. So I sang it, and one take, it was down. We did a couple of repairs on a couple of words where the timing was a bit weird, and he said, that's it, leave it. So, and of course, I'm ready to kill Pat. I mean, I'm like, and so we go, Pat says, come on, I'll take you for dinner. Ritchie had told him to get me to sing it in a blues style because he knew it couldn't be done. Hunting Humans was written in Longview Farm Studios in the barn on a cold winter's day, the day after Fred West hung himself. And it was written in 45 minutes. Ritchie just said boom, bam, boom, bam, boom, bam. And I used to have a tape recorder similar to this one here, and I would tape everything. And it would be my, we'd be there for hours, and I would just have tapes, and I'd be labeling them, and it was my job at the end of the day to go back and make up a best of the day tape of, you do it, I'm not listening to it, you go and do it, because I loved listening to it anyway. I'm getting to listen to Ritchie Blackmore for free. Right? And that was on there, and we never changed. I changed a couple of the lyrics, you know, just to make it work better. But it was written in 45 minutes, it was only 2 takes, and it never changed from that day. And it's written about someone who goes out and hunts humans and, you know, loves dead bodies. It was really, Fred West killed himself that day, but it's based on Dennis Nielsen, who was a Scottish guy who murdered 7 or 8 women, young boys actually, in Muswell Hill, and flushed them down the toilet. So it's a love song. Ritchie would come in to, it was whenever he was ready to do it. I mean, if the rest of the band were there and he wasn't there and we were jamming, he would just walk in and pick up the guitar and start playing whatever he wanted to play. He wouldn't join in. It was very much his, you know, he wouldn't come in and say, oh, that's a good idea. He had an idea that maybe he had come up with that night, or that he'd thought about when he was walking down the stairs, when he was in a shower or something, and he would come in, nothing was ever planned, and he would just come in and start playing, and we would jam it round, and it would just sort of find its merry way to wherever it was going to go, or it wouldn't, or it wasn't going to go. And that's why it was my job to tape everything, because sometimes the songs only happened that once, and if you didn't have them, you lost it. And we did a song in the album called Ariel, which was another one that Ritchie and Candy wrote together, and Ritchie was just playing himself in the hall before anybody else got there. And the riff, he was playing the riff and then another riff, but separately. And I took the two of them and put them together, and that made up the Ariel riff. And I said, look, this works. And he went off and he wrote it, and then he gave, him and Candy came up with the melody and the lyrics, and that became Ariel. Because he was playing ba-na, 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 and then later on he was da-da-da-da-da. So I was cutting these bits of tape and putting them together, and it just worked. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, and some folk will go, they're just talking rubbish. But it's true. I mean, I had to pick all the bits, because he wasn't going to listen through to 8 hours of tape, you know. It was a pleasure for me to do it. But I had to give him them all back again, so they're probably rotting in his garage somewhere. The Stranger in Us All album was too, for me, overproduced and too slick. And there's a thin line between the British rock, that hard rock sound, and the American slick radio-friendly sound, and we crossed that line. I took 23 days to sing 11 songs. I can do a song a day, but the producer wanted another take and another take to make it perfect. But we weren't making a Def Leppard record. It was supposed to be loose rock and roll. But then it wasn't Dougie White's Rainbow, it was Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. He gets to do what he likes. We always got on well until that one day when we didn't, and that was it. It was as quick as that. It was just done, and there's no reason for it that I can pinpoint. He may be able to tell you a reason, or somebody else might be able to tell you a reason. I can't think of one. He was probably fed up with my little Scottish voice, didn't he?